everybody, my name is Erica and today I'm going to be giving you my top 10 favorite books of 2021. So I wanted to kind of do a 21 favorite books of 2021, but I only read 60 books in the year, so I decided that wasn't very much, and most of the books were not like considered favorites, so top 10 is what I'm going to be going with. I'm happy with my 60 books. I know there are people who can read like hundreds a year and that just is amazing for them, but I was pretty happy with my 60. And let's just get right into it. So a lot of these books I've mentioned in previous videos, so I'm not going to be going into too many details simply because that's a lot to talk about. The first one is Girls Ive Been. This book I absolutely loved. I went in with like no expectations because I didn't know anything about it, and I just fell in love with this story, and I wish there would be more. I don't think it's a series though, so I'm pretty sad about that. This book follows a girl named Soraya who was cursed with poison in her veins so that anybody who touched her would die. And basically they gave her this curse because it was trying to be like used as a protection against other people who were trying to go after her. It's been very miserable for her entire life because she couldn't really hang out with other people, go to parties and stuff, and she just had to be kept separate from the world. She becomes very familiar though with the tunnels beneath the palace, and she finds out that there's a div who's a type of demon living in the prison right now. Soraya sneaks over to try and free her from this prison. The div's name is Parvane. She's actually a special type of div called a pari. So in order for Parvane to want to help Soraya, Soraya has to go find the special feather and get her out of the prison. Once they do that, there's of course some betrayal, some tensions between them, but in the end Soraya needs to work together with Parvane so that Parvane can reclaim her kingdom, and that Soraya can be free of this curse. There are some other things that happen. I don't want to go into too many details. Obviously it's a lot. But this book was so well written. It was so beautiful. It's an Iranian-inspired fantasy retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and I just loved it. It has a bisexual main character. The romance between them is just so cute, and I could not get enough of this book, and I definitely need to reread it because it's just so beautiful, and I loved the writing and everything about it was just so well done. One of my next favorites was of course The Midnight Lie, which I've talked about several times, so I'm not going to be going into a lot of details, but we are following Niram, who lives in this area that just does not have any color, any magic to it. She's never really learned about the outside world until she meets this person named Sid. She kind of starts to begin questioning what she's learned and what she's known all her life. So they end up having to team up because Niram wants to figure out what the magic is that lies outside her area. I forget what it's called. But I really like this book. We have a sapphic relationship. I am excited to see where the second one goes with this story. And again, I have a whole video reviewing this book, so if you want to get more details, definitely check that out because it's just a lot, but it's definitely one of my favorite books for this year. Alright, one of my next favorite books was Girls of Paper and Fire, and I've also talked about this one a lot, but this one was for sure one of my favorites. I did read both the first and second book, and I definitely prefer the first one so far. But the third one did just recently come out, so I'm excited to get my hands on that one. In this book, we're following this girl named Lei. She lives just a simple life with her dad and their dog. But then one day the general shows up and they see something special in Lei, and so they end up taking her to the hidden palace where she will become a paper girl. So the paper girls are concubines to the king. Lei is very heartbroken by this, but she's determined to go and make the most of it so that nothing bad happens to her family, because they will be well taken care of because of this. And they believe that she's going to be bringing good luck to the kingdom if she goes. So upon arriving, Lei is pretty leery of the other girls. A lot of them don't really like her. She makes friends with a few as time goes on. But then there's one girl in particular she has a very hard time getting to know and just can't seem to get past her barriers, and that is this girl named Ren. And Ren is this beautiful, mysterious, and just absolutely like breathtaking person, and they actually find out that she has like some magic within her. Lei tends to follow Ren out because Ren sneaks out in the middle of the night a lot, and turns out Ren is not exactly who she seems. But during all of this, Lei is becoming a paper girl, training and everything, and her first night with the king does not go as planned. It is very bad, and Lei becomes very unhappy and discouraged by this and very scared. So after this, Lei becomes determined to make it out of the palace. While this is happening, there are a lot of untrustworthy people, and Lei gets kind of tangled up in this mystery of magic and romance and all of this stuff. And there is a content warning in this book. It's sexual assault, abuse, and trafficking, so definitely be warned if you plan on reading this. I'm doing a pretty poor job explaining it, but I absolutely love this book. I was not anticipating liking it as much as I did, but I love the characters, I love the concept, even though it is very dark and pretty emotional at times. I thought it was very well written, and I really loved Lei and Ren. Ren especially is just so mysterious, and I was not a huge fan of the second one because of some stuff that happens, obviously, but overall I really love this series and I cannot wait to read the third one. Alright, one of my next favorite books, which I loved this one, is The Girls Ive Been by Tess Sharp. This book I did not expect to really love this. Like, I went in not really knowing what it was about because the description was pretty weird. Like, it just didn't go into a lot of details. But oh my goodness, it is so good. So this book follows a girl named Nora, and Nora grew up basically being her mom's partner, and her mom was a very like big con artist, and Nora grew up as all these different girls, different names, different characters she's had to portray in order to go along with her mom's cons. And so Nora really didn't know how to get out of that life, and finally once she's out, she's like with her big sister. She kind of picked this name for herself because Nora kind of just forgot who she was because she was constantly putting on a show to do whatever her mom wanted. And so they left their mom behind, and now fast forward, Nora gets stuck in this big bank hostage situation. So she's hanging out with her girlfriend and their friend, and they get stuck as hostages during this bank thing, and so people are getting killed. There's a lot going on. Nora has to dive back into her past and bring out skills that she grew up with that she kind of put to sleep for a really long time because she did not want to use them and had no reason to after she left her mom. So that is not the best description, but it is so good. It's a very dark book. I was not expecting it to be so emotional and so dark and sad at times. The hostage thing was so well written, and everything about this book was so good. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and it just moves really fast. Like, you're going through the bank moments, and like the time is ticking as things are getting worse. The stakes are so high in this. It's so interesting going back to Nora's past during this book and seeing how she became who she is now and like what her mom did to her. It was just so sad, but also just really well written. Like I said, I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did, but it quickly became one of my favorites of the year. One of my next favorite books was The Mask Falling, and this is the 4th installment in the Bone Season series, so I'm not really going into details because this whole series is a thing. It is one of my favorite dystopian series of all time. You definitely have to check it out. It takes place right after the events of the 3rd book, but we have some, like, there is a short story in between that I read, and it takes place with Paige and Warden in Paris, and just Paige healing and trying to cope after all of this trauma that she went through. And it was such a good book. I'm obsessed with this series. I desperately just need all of the books at one time. So I'm not going into details on that one, but such a good book. Definitely recommend that series for sure if you love dystopian. If not, it's so well written. Alright, one of my next favorites was Sweet and Bitter Magic. This one I went in with kind of high expectations, and mostly they were met. We're following this witch named Tamsin, and she's very powerful, but she ends up getting thrown out of this coven for committing like a really horrible crime. So after that, she's cursed with the inability to love. So in order to get that feeling, she has to take it from other people. We kind of start out seeing her take this love of someone, I think for their husband. This woman is trying to beg to have her heal her baby. In order for Tamsin to do it, she has to take the love for her husband. It's just a whole thing, but I really love that concept. So anyway, moving on. So then we have another character named Ren. I feel like Ren just comes up a lot. She is basically, she doesn't have magic, but she's like full of magic. So anyone who like is near her, like touches her, can use that magic. And her father becomes very sick with plague. So Ren makes her way over to Tamsin, trying to see if Tamsin will actually heal her father or to get rid of this plague. They end up teaming up to go take down the witch who created the plague so that they could actually end it that way. But in order to do this, Tamsin has to take Ren's love as a payment. And it's a whole thing because Ren's obviously doing it for the love of her father, but she's losing that love as well. I'm not the best at explaining this, but overall I really liked this book. I loved the relationship between the characters. I really liked the concept of it, that she has to take the love from her. But the only issue I had with it, I don't remember why I put it as my favorites because now I'm kind of questioning it, but the only main thing I had, I feel like the stakes were just not very high. Like, I feel like Ren was not as worried about losing the love for her father, and I just feel like Tamsin like loses that love over time. Like, it's just a whole thing. But I liked the battle between the like love versus not having the love, and the fact that Tamsin started falling in love with Ren on this journey, even though Ren's gonna lose her love. It's a whole thing, but I just feel like the stakes weren't as high as they could have been. But overall, I love the concept, and I think there's supposed to be another one, hopefully. I can't remember, but I really enjoyed this book. Number 7 is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. I'm not going into details for this one either. This book, of course, follows Zoya and Nikolai after the events of the first book, and we have a great combination of characters in this. I'm obsessed with this series. I actually reread all of the Shadow and Bone series and then King of Scars before Rule of Wolves came out. We're also following Nina on her journey to try and save the Grisha who are stuck in Fjerda and all of that, and it is just so good. It's definitely one of my favorite books of all time now, and it was just beautiful. The relationships, the growth of the characters, their arcs, like it was such an incredible journey, and I just cannot get enough of that world and those characters, and oh, it was just it was everything I could have imagined. The next book I'm going to be talking about is Ace of Spades. This one I went in with pretty high expectations and was not disappointed. This book we're following Devon and Chiamaka, who are students at this really elite academy, on the Vus Academy, and they are at the top of their class. They're trying to do their best. Devon is dealing with like a lot of personal drama as well as drama at school, and Chiamaka is one of the top students. She has like all these great friends. She has great grades. She just knows she's gonna do well. But then they start getting blackmailed by somebody. It's kind of like Pretty Little Liars concept. A lot of their secrets start getting revealed by an anonymous texter. This person really starts to ruin their lives. And in the end, they kind of realize it's not just one person, but there's a lot of people out there to get them. And it's just completely changed their perspective of their school and their peers and everything that's happening around them. There are a lot of queer relationships in this, which I really enjoyed, and I just love the concept of this book. I love the characters so much and just the personal drama that they have to deal with. I really enjoyed it. I really loved the concept of it. I have a hard time sometimes with YA thrillers, but this one was so well written. The ending was the main thing. I was pretty shocked by it, but also in the end it kind of wasn't a surprise. Sometimes it's different when it's a more broad enemy than just like someone specific. But overall, I did not see a lot of it coming, and I highly recommend this book. Alright everybody, we're down to the last two. My 9th favorite book was Last Night at the Telegraph Club, and I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. In this book, we're in 1954 San Francisco during the Red Scare, like the big communism era. We're following Lily, who lives in Chinatown. Lily's starting to learn a lot more about herself after she finds this clip in the newspaper about this club called the Telegraph Club, where the person in it is actually a female who looks like a male. And so she's very intrigued by this and she's never really seen this before. It's such a new concept to her, but she wants to try to get there. She ends up bumping into this girl in her class named Kathleen, who she's known for all the years of schooling, but she's never really talked to her. Kathleen actually knows a lot of people at the Telegraph Club, so they decide to go together. It sparks all these new feelings in Lily and this new idea of who she is and just a stronger understanding of who she wants to be. Meanwhile, her and Kath are kind of starting to fall for each other, and Lily has to be very careful, especially with the Red Scare going on. Her parents have been really stressed about her being out, and she has to be very secretive about everything. She's also just really scared about them finding out. So Lily is battling this relationship with her family and these secrets, while also trying to stay true to herself and build this relationship with Kath. And I love this book. I wish I'd had it when I was in high school or middle school, and I just wish I had a book like this, because it just really makes you start to explore your life. I mean, it just really kind of sparks ideas, and it's really beautiful seeing Lily put these pieces together, but it's also really hard to read because, you know, she's battling this. If you had to keep your feelings a secret and not be able to tell your family, that it just starts to build up and make things really difficult. And so having this book at a young age, I feel like would have been so helpful for so many people. I love the writing of this book. I just love the concept of it. I love the characters, their relationships. The ending was so hard to get through. That was the main part that I struggled with, because you just want everything to be perfect, but you know that's not how it always is. So it's very realistic. There are a lot of heartbreaking moments and beautiful moments, and I just think it's such an important story, and I'm just really happy I was able to read it this year. Alright, and last but not least is The Scapegracers. This book I read for Halloween and definitely gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's not something I thought I'd love, but I did. So we're following Sideways Pike, who kind of has started to delve into magic. Obviously, like, magic isn't really, it's not like magic, like fantasy magic. So she is at a party that she never gets invited to by these girls, and she is kind of the entertainment that night because they've heard about her magic and they heard what she can do, and they really want to see if she can actually do it. So the first spell goes really well, but then the next one, she meets this girl and is immediately enamored by her, crushing so hard. So they do this spell together and things just kind of get out of control. When she wakes up, there are chalk markings all over, the girl's gone, there are deer in the pool, and Sideways Pike is thrown into this mystery and this cult that's out to get them. She finds herself in a beautiful friendship with these girls that she never anticipated, and she just loves the feeling of camaraderie that they have, and they decide to form their own coven, and it is just so good. The writing is beautiful, it's sexy, it's dark, it's very witchy, there's sapphic romance in it, and overall it's just such a good book. Like, I definitely don't really believe in any of that stuff. Like, I'm just very like, but I mean, that doesn't take away from the obsession of it, and just you feel like you're under a spell reading it, and I absolutely loved it. Those are my top 10 favorite books of 2021, and I'm sorry I didn't go into more details for some. They were all really good, and I definitely enjoyed most of the books I read this year. I'm hoping 2022 is a great reading year. I set my challenge for 60 books again, but I'm hoping to go over that, but we'll see with how everything is. But that is all I have for you today. If you like this video, be sure to give it a nice little thumbs up. If you want to keep following me on this booktube journey, please subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at EricaAGobble. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!